Hello everyone, this is Betsy from Ideas Times 2, and today I have a tutorial for you how to make these mini Christmas journals. Well, I'm showing you Christmas ones, but they could be anything, using the holiday spools of beautiful ribbon that they're fabric ribbon, and we find those a lot of times at Christmas. And I have to admit, I'm a bit of a ribbon holic. I love ribbon, but sometimes you collect these ribbons and you don't wind up using them. You couldn't find just the right project, or you're not making a wreath, or whatever the case may be. So I thought, well, let's make them into something. Let's make it into something. So I came up with this little mini Christmas journal. You know, mini Christmas journals are not out of the ordinary, right? But I thought it'd be fun to use up the ribbon for the covers on these. So that's what we're making today. I'm going to show you how to make the cover, the pages. This one I put together a quick signature. I haven't decorated it at all, but I just wanted to show you kind of an idea of what it would look like when it was done. So I will take this out for now. So of course it's going to depend on what size ribbon you have, but you'll need ribbon and cardstock and maybe some fabric scraps. And that's about it. You'll need to use your sewing machine, have some glue, just some real basic supplies. And hopefully you've got ribbon that you've been collecting that you have the same idea of using it up. So let's use it up. All right, so this one is made, I'll just start off by telling you, so this I call a vertical pattern, right? Because usually you hold a spool like this. So to me, this is a vertical pattern. So I'll show you how to make one out of a vertical pattern. And then also we have the horizontal pattern, which is right here. So I'm looking at the spool like this, and I'm calling this the horizontal pattern. So I've got this one as well. Isn't that cute? I love these both so much. So much. All right, so put those aside. And we'll start off with a vertical one. So with vertical, you'll snip off your pattern. This one was easy. It's just one tree. This one has some little figures, and so I just had to figure out where I wanted to snip that. But before you start snipping, most of those spools have wired edges. So the first thing to do is get rid of the wired edge. So for example, I've already gotten rid of the wire on here, but for example, I thought I'd show you on this one. This one is a little bit bigger. It would still make a really pretty journal cover. I can't wait to do that. So, but the first thing, I'm going to just hold this up against that white paper, and you can see the wire sticking out right there. So all you need to do is scrunch back the fabric of the ribbon to expose the wire, and then just pull along that wire and just cut off a bunch of that ribbon. Don't use your good scissors. Don't use your Tim Holtz scissors. Use your wire snippers. You know, I find Cyndi had a basics, so I snipped it off, and then what we have left is no wire. It goes down to about right there. But if you need more, before you cut this off, if you need more off, just poke that wire through and do the same thing. Just pull the wire out and scrunch the fabric back and cut it off. So that's all you need to do to get that wire out of there. We don't want that wire. Cyndi had a good video on basics, right? And to me, I don't think she mentioned it. I will leave the link for her video down below, so you can also see what she picked for her basics. And another thing I might pick too as well is jewelry pliers, because I use them sometimes to pull out my needles when I'm binding. I use them to snip wire sometimes. I use them to make charms, so they do come in handy. In fact, I don't put them away anymore. I keep them in with my scissors and my hole punchers and the different tools that I use like almost daily. So those are awesome tools to have. Just snip that wire. And then you're left with two pieces. You'll cut a front and a back, so you'll have two pieces. And this is fabric ribbon. Sometimes you can get the chiffon ribbon, and I think you could still make a cover out of that. I think it would be really cute, but this method will be just for like a fabric kind of ribbon. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to make a front cover, back cover, and then we're going to make a separate spine. If you feel like it's fraying a lot, I have a little tip for that. Just use a pretty liquidy type glue, and here I'll just show you what I had done. So I just put a line of glue on my craft mat, and just for the sake of, like, you could use fray check. If you're a sewer, you may have that, but some of those things are very liquidy and they bleed too much, and we only want just the very edge to have just a tiny bit of substance on it so that it keeps the edges from fraying. So just dip it very slightly, and then you'll have a nice sealed edge, and it won't fray. So if you're having trouble with fraying, they're not all going to fray. This one doesn't seem like it's going to be too bad. This one is a very loose weave, and it was fraying quite a lot. So I'm going to have to clean that up. So that's just something I thought would come in handy for you guys if you have something that needs a little extra help. Otherwise, it's going to be hard to work with a little bit. Okay, so the next thing to do for this cover is, so we've got two nice finished edges. One we're not going to use, but the outside edges we're going to use those, right? So just keep those. But what I'm going to do now is to sew the raw edges down, and sew this one up, sew this one down, so you have a nice four-sided finished edge. So I'm going to go ahead and do that on both of these. I'll probably use a brown thread just to kind of tie in with the serged stitches which are on the edges here. So I'm going to do that, and I'll be back in a minute. Okay, I'm back. So I sewed these, the top and bottom, to make it a finished edge on the top and bottom there. So it'll look like this. And then what we're going to need is a spine to attach these two pieces together. So to give the spine structure, we are going to use cardstock. So cut a piece of cardstock the height of your cover, and then as wide as you'd like it. So this one is going to be about 1 1/4 inches. This is going to be about 1 1/4 inches. Normally I make my pages first and then my cover next so that I can make sure it fits, but I'm doing it the opposite way today so I can show you how to make one of these covers. So take a piece of cardstock and cut it the size that you need, and then before gluing or anything like that, we are going to score it. So if you can see, I have scored the center part of this. So leave about 1/4 inch or a little bit more on each side, and then just score at 1/8 inch increments, just all the way up and down the center part of that. All right, that'll help you have a nice curved spine. So you can see how it curves all by itself like that, and it helps our spine to look like this. All right, and then what we are going to do, so our book is going to be like this. So what we're going to do is put the natural curves facing down. We're going to put some glue on each side of these. I should have just done one at a time now that I think about it, but that's okay. Smooth that glue out and then put your front cover on one side. And make sure your glue's in a nice thin layer so it doesn't seep through. But we are going to put fabric over the top of this, so it will not matter that much. Okay, the other thing I would recommend is making sure it's straight. So line it up with a line, a straight edge somewhere. And make sure that you're straight across and you're not going sort of at an angle. This looks pretty good. Check it to make sure it's going to fit. And we have a winner. So there you have your little booklet shape already. The next thing we're going to do is cover this with fabric. So I cut my piece already. And I decided on this darker brown. You know what? I'm thinking that might be too dark. Kind of like this one better. And I did have a piece of cardstock all ready to go. Now I can't find it. Maybe it's on the floor. That's what I tell my Sunday school kids all the time. Maybe it's on the floor. Check the floor. Guess what? Most of the time you can find it on the floor. All right. What I usually do with this is sew. I'm going to cut another piece of cardstock, just slightly smaller than my fabric. I already measured my fabric and everything, and I also had another piece of cardstock, but yeah, can't find it. This is what I usually do when I'm attaching fabric, sort of gluing it separately. What I usually do is put another piece of cardstock over it, and then I'll stitch down here and stitch down here. That'll give it another little bit of structure, but it's also helping me to give this a nice finished sewn edge. So I'm going to go ahead and do that as well. I'm going to sew that down, make this just a tiny bit smaller. And I'll probably score this too. We don't want one part to bend and not the other. So just lots of little score lines. All right. So I'm going to glue this to this. And once again, make sure your glue is in a really thin line. Or a thin layer, not a line, thin layer. Okay. So what I'm going to do, and make sure that it kind of gets all on the edges. So just like that. I use Fabri-Tac, especially when I am attaching fabric onto paper or fabric to fabric or really anything with fabric. I love Fabri-Tac. Okay, so what we have now is another little curvy piece, and that's going to go right on top there. But before I lay down, well, you could put this on top and then sew all the layers together. But right now, I think I'm choosing just to go ahead and I'm going to sew this and then glue it, but you certainly could do it the other way around. So I'll be back in a minute. Okay, I'm back with my little spine cover. Give it structure, but also make it look a little rustic. I've torn the edges on all my fabric. I like the look of that. All right, and then we're gonna flip this over and glue. And this glue you don't have to be so careful with because it's gluing paper to just paper straight down on this, and none of the stuff around it is going to show. So there we go. Give that a good squeeze. Okay, now we have our basic cover with a spine. Definitely usable, but we want to finish the inside too. And so the way I do this would be to put some end papers on it like this, and then you can leave this just the way it is, or you can cover this with fabric as well. So, and I'm going to, you could sew around these edges before you glue them down. I don't want to bore you with that right now, so I'm just going to go ahead and glue these down, making sure the edges are nice and covered there. And I just cut those, I measured them and cut them just so that it covers up this spine piece here. And covered. All right, now you could use this just as it is. The brown craft paper goes with this whole color scheme here, so that would work. But I am gonna cover that with fabric as well, just because and it'll make it nice and sturdy too. Now let me see if this dark is too dark for here. This is very dark brown, very, very dark. So it does look good though. Looking through my my little basket to see if I can find anything. I'll just use the brown. It's okay. And let's see, it's a little big, so I intended it for the outside piece. That part's pretty raggedy anyway. Alright, so I'm going to sort of fray this edge with my scissors. I'm just going to poke some of that out. And then I have a little bit of a frayed edge. The other edges were ripped at one time, so okay. And then what I'm going to do is go ahead and put a little bit of glue just over that end paper, and then all over the spine. Okay, and then we're going to give that a really good spread so that it won't bleed through. Just very thin layer. All right, nice and flat. And there's our cover. So there's our little owl cover. And there's the inside, and you can, put pockets in here, sew your signatures directly through the spine, so you have your beautiful signature strings on the outside. Decorate it just like a regular journal. You put a tassel on here, make sure you figure out a closure. Super, super fun. I can't wait to finish these little projects. So these ribbons were the vertically oriented images. And then I was going to show you really quickly how to make one with the horizontal image. So if you have enough space between your images, to make a little spine. Like this does make about a 1/2 inch spine. So I just decided to fold it over. And then I also cut it, so I've got the image on both the front and the back, and then I cut it long enough on each end to fold it over to make a pocket. So this gets folded back like this. And make sure to tuck this end down and sew it. Sew across here just to finish off the edge. And then before you sew this down to make a pocket, put your papers in, glue your papers in like that, and then you'll stitch down each side just on this edge here and this edge here, and then you'll make a nice little pocket. So do the same on that side with a pocket. And then what I did, now if you want it to be a big fat chunky book, you'll need to cut it here and then do it the exact same way as we did here. So if you want a chunky, if you want just a smaller book, this 1/2 inch spine might be enough for you. All right, and I do like that. I like that a lot. So the way I did this one is to cut 2 separate end papers like this and this, making sure to keep your spine free. Because if you cut one long strip like this, it makes it hard to bend, and it's wanting to bend each side differently, and so it gets real awkward in the spine area. So make sure to do 2 separate pieces here, and then I peeled this back so you could see. So I glued a piece of cardstock to make just overlap these little pieces just a little bit, and then I glued fabric over the top. So this one will have ribbon, cardstock, and then more fabric on the inside. And then you can sew your signature right in. Love it, love it. I hope that helps. I hope you can either nab some ribbon on sale or use up some of your stash and make some cute little stocking stuffers. That's it. That's it for me today, guys. I hope you enjoyed this. I will probably, I'm going out of town in just another day. So I won't have time to finish these up, but I will finish these up and put them in the Etsy shop. So I won't have those in quite yet, but look for a bunch of little mini journals in our Etsy shop, and I'll leave the link for our Etsy shop down below. Check out our things we have in there right now. That would be awesome. And we have a Facebook group. We'd love to have you join us there. We've had a swap already, and we are planning we have a rack list, and we're planning on having another event coming up soon too. So I hope you enjoyed this. Take care, everybody, and we will talk to you later. Goodbye.